We'll see what happens over the next...
US President Donald Trump could meet his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, as soon as next week. That's according to a White House official Wednesday. This would be the first face-to-face meeting between a sitting US and Russian president since Russia launched its full-scale assault on Ukraine in 2022, the biggest attack on a European nation since the Second World War. Trump had reportedly told European leaders in a call Wednesday that he intended to meet with Putin, then follow up with a trilateral involving the Russian leader and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
We had some very good talks with President Putin today, and there's a very good chance that we could be ending the end of that road. That road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon.
U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff held talks with Putin earlier on Wednesday. The Kremlin described them as useful and constructive. But Putin and Zelensky have not met since December 2019, and they make no secret of their contempt for each other. The diplomatic maneuvers come days before a deadline by Trump for Russia to agree to peace in Ukraine or face new sanctions. Zelensky said Wednesday Washington's strong-arm tactic seemed to be yielding results.
It appears that Russia is now more inclined to consider a ceasefire. The pressure on them is working. But the main thing is to make sure they don't deceive anyone in the details, neither us nor the United States.
Media outlets have reported the Kremlin might propose a halt on airstrikes by Russia and Ukraine. That would offer relief to both sides. But it falls short of the full and immediate ceasefire that Ukraine and the US have been seeking for months. Since the two sides resumed direct peace talks in May, Russia has carried out its heaviest air attacks of the war, killing dozens in Kyiv. Trump last week called the Russian attacks disgusting. Meanwhile, Russian sources close to the Kremlin recently told Reuters that Putin is unlikely to bow to Trump's sanctions ultimatum because he believes he is winning the war, and his military goals outweigh his desire to improve ties with the US.
U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff on Wednesday met with Russian President Vladimir Putin 2 days before a deadline set by Donald Trump for Russia to agree to peace in Ukraine or face new sanctions. Kremlin Foreign Policy Advisor Yuri Ushakov told a Russian television station that the two held a, quote, useful and constructive discussion. He said Moscow had received certain, quote, signals from Trump and had sent messages in return. There was no immediate comment from the U.S. side. Trump, increasingly frustrated with Putin over the lack of progress towards peace, has threatened to impose heavy tariffs on countries that buy Russian exports. He is exerting particular pressure on India, which, along with China, is a huge buyer of Russian oil. The Kremlin says threats to penalize countries that trade with Russia are illegal. It was not clear what Russia might offer to Witkoff in order to stave off Trump's threat. 3 sources close to the Kremlin told Reuters that Putin is unlikely to bow to Trump's sanctions ultimatum because he believes he is winning the war. Bloomberg and an independent Russian news outlet reported that the Kremlin might propose a moratorium on airstrikes by Russia and Ukraine. Such a move, if agreed, would fall well short of the full and immediate ceasefire that Ukraine and the U.S. have been seeking for months, but it might have the diplomatic effect of lifting U.S. pressure.
Putin really, I think, has decided he wants a long war.
Timothy Ash is an associate fellow at Chatham House.
But they think by throwing a little bone to Trump, Witkoff's there, letting Witkoff come back with something, it'll buy them a bit more time to continue to wage war, because they think the longer they leave it, the longer they continue the fight, ultimately Ukraine will buckle, the Western alliance will weaken, appetite to continue support Ukraine will kind of moderate, and in the end Putin will get everything he wants, which is the whole of Ukraine. That is the reality.
Ukraine had accepted Trump's demand that both sides agree to an immediate ceasefire, but Moscow said it sought a final and durable settlement, not a pause. As a candidate, Trump repeatedly promised to end the 3.5-year war in his first 24 hours in office. Ash said it's unclear how much stomach Trump has for pressuring Moscow.
I just don't think so, because he's actually not shown so far, a desire to do anything really hard and specific in support of Ukraine and to hurt the Russians.
Australia's Great Barrier Reef has suffered the largest decline in coral cover in 2 of its 3 regions over the last year. That's according to a new report released by the Australian Institute of Marine Science on Wednesday.
The sharp decline was due to the mass coral bleaching event that was driven by the global marine heat wave that actually affected coral reefs all around the world.
Daniela Ceccarelli is an ecologist with the Institute's long-term monitoring program. She said in the northern Great Barrier Reef, coral cover dropped by about a quarter between 2024 and 2025. In the southern reef, almost 1/3 of high coral cover was lost.
So in the northern and southern regions, this is actually the largest decline we've ever seen in 39 years of annual monitoring.
The reef is the world's largest living ecosystem. It stretches for some 1,500 miles off the coast of the northern Australian state of Queensland. Since 2016, the reef has experienced 5 summers of mass coral bleaching. Large sections of the reef turn white due to heat stress, putting them at greater risk of death. The new report shows the 2024 event had the largest footprint ever recorded on the reef, with high to extreme bleaching across all of its 3 regions. The Great Barrier Reef is currently not on the UNESCO list of World Heritage Sites that are in danger, and the UN recommends it should be added. But Australia's government has lobbied for years to keep the reef off the endangered list, as it could damage tourism. The reef contributes $4.2 billion to Australia's economy annually. Ceccarelli says local management and interventions to help corals adapt and recover are important. She also warns of biodiversity loss if bleaching continues.
Climate change is without a doubt the biggest threat to coral reefs globally and the Great Barrier Reef. And so what we need to do to secure a future for coral reefs is to cut greenhouse gas emissions.
Well, the pilot has now begun, and the first migrants who arrived on small boat are now in detention. That is the first step to removing them to France, because no one should be making this journey in the first place, and that's why this is now starting the process to return people and to undermine this vile trade in people. The transfers to immigration removal centres are underway as we speak, so we won't provide operational details at this point that criminal gangs can simply use and exploit. But no one should be in any doubt. Anyone who arrives from now on is eligible for immediate detention and return, and this pilot will now build, because we are determined that no one should be making this journey, and this is a vile trade in people.
Firefighters' efforts to contain France's biggest wildfire in almost 80 years dragged on into a third day on Thursday, which has so far ravaged over 37,000 acres in Aude, an area larger than Paris. The fire has claimed 1 life in Saint-Laurent-de-la-Cabrieris, destroyed at least 25 homes, and displaced residents and tourists. Prime Minister François Bayrou called the situation unprecedented as he visited the area.
It was very important for us to be there, because the disaster is a disaster of unprecedented scale. It was very important because hundreds, thousands of people feel that their most precious possessions, their homes, their vineyards have been affected.
Nearly 2,000 firefighters are battling the blaze, and officials say it is spreading rapidly at just over 3 miles per hour. Scientists say the Mediterranean region's hotter, drier summers increase the risk of wildfires. Nearby Spain is enduring a prolonged heat wave, with temperatures reaching 43 degrees Celsius, fueling its own wildfires. In Tarifa, a blaze sparked by a caravan fire reignited because of gusty winds and high temperatures. Campsite owner Diego Rodriguez lost everything.
All of my belongings were burnt, everything. I only have what I'm wearing. I don't have anything to go on.
In Portugal, over 42,000 hectares have burned this year, with more than half of the damage occurring in the past 2 weeks. Once fires start, plentiful dry vegetation and strong winds in the region can cause them to spread rapidly and burn out of control. Scientists say climate change exacerbates this risk by creating hotter and drier background conditions.
Yeah, this is the star item from our upcoming auction, our September Entertainment Memorabilia Live auction. And this is Darth Vader's dueling lightsaber. So this is the one that he used to fight Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, in the climactic duels in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, which of course were shot here in the UK at Elstree Studios.
What we have here today is just a very finely curated selection of the 1,000 lots that are going under the hammer on September the 4th to the 6th in Los Angeles. These are essentially some of the highlights. We'd love to have bought more. There are some incredible artifacts in this sale, but we've got things from Darth Vader's hero lightsaber, Indiana Jones's whip, Jane Fonda's costume from Barbarella, a clapperboard from Jaws, and of course Sauron's helmet from Lord of the Rings as well. Some astonishing and amazing artifacts.
What is the showstopper? What can you tell me about?
Walt Disney posted better than expected quarterly results on Wednesday, and the entertainment giant raised its annual profit forecast. Adjusted earnings per share rose 16% from a year ago to $1.61 for Disney's fiscal third quarter, well above analyst expectations. The update was led by gains in its streaming business. Disney projected it would add 10 million Disney Plus and Hulu subscribers in the current quarter. Subscriptions for both rose by 2.6 million to 183 million in the quarter just ended. That drove a 6% rise in revenue at the direct-to-consumer business. Disney also announced 2 major deals with the National Football League and WWE over the last 24 hours. That as it gets ready for its just under $30 per month ESPN streaming service later this month. The WWE deal will bring exclusive rights to major wrestling events to the streaming service. The NFL will take a 10% equity stake in Disney's ESPN Sports Network. The company has been building its streaming business in sports and entertainment while traditional television viewing falls. The company has also expanded its popular theme parks and cruise lines. Disney's Parks division reported a 13% gain in income to $2.5 billion. Profit at domestic parks rose more than a fifth, even with new competition in Orlando, Florida from Universal's Epic Universe. However, operating income in the entertainment division fell 15% to $1 billion. Disney blamed the drop on lower results from traditional television networks and the strong performance of the film Inside Out 2 a year earlier.